Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of a Definitive Discussion Rebooted, where I bring on all types of guests from all over the internet to talk about gaming, talk about a whole bunch of other stuff, YouTube, and a bunch of other great topics that I know you guys love. If you haven't already checked out the previous episodes I've had here on the channel, I highly suggest you do so. There's a playlist on the channel now that you guys could check out every single guest that I had on the show. But today, I got a really fun special guest, someone I've wanted to have on for quite a while, and I watch his content. We talk a lot here and there about different stuff. It could be actually kind of cool. So The Right Opinion, you know him on YouTube. He does a lot of great commentary videos and stuff. So my dude, welcome. It's cool to talk to you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Great to be.
It's awesome. Again, now I know you do a lot of commentary stuff. You pretty much, deep dive and do a lot of analytical videos on a variety of different subjects, not just gaming. I know you've talked about various creators like Angry Joe and a few others here and there, but you're pretty open-ended with the type of stuff that you do. I mean, with all that type of stuff, talking about different content creators, different types of people and personalities online, did you ever feel like sometimes it could kind of get really out of whack, especially with the different types of topics that come up?
I mean, what do you mean when you say out of whack?
Like, for example, like you've done stuff on, like I mentioned, like Angry Joe, then you would do content on like a Nicole Arbor, or you would dive into like Logan Paul or Jake Paul or Shane Dawson. Like there's a wide range of different types of like, content that you would dive into and stuff. Did you ever think that maybe you weren't necessarily like gearing towards like one type of audience, or maybe you were diving into topics you didn't know about too much?
I mean, yes, there is always that concern. I don't know a lot of my topics too closely when I first visit them. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of learning. Generally, what I rely on is some consistency in myself, in my persona, and in the way I deliver things to be the appeal of the content, rather than just the topics themselves. In my opinion, the topics of YouTube are always changing, and therefore you kind of have to change with them, and you have to therefore establish yourself as a creator who can cover traits and flavors. So in my opinion, I think it is important to be able to cover a range of topics and pull back a significant audience. Some creators can't do that. Some creators rely on very select set of topics.
True.
But in my opinion, I very much take preference to being able to cover a range of topics and create the content that I want to create based around that.
Cool. That's interesting. Now, I always liked it how, again, you just have a lot of open-endedness with some of the stuff that you really kind of cover. Again, you have that wide range of different types of personalities you've commented on. But I want to know a little bit, since you mentioned persona, I want to understand and kind of like find out a little bit about where did The Right Opinion come from? Like just the name The Right Opinion, or just the idea of like how you convey yourself in your videos. Because I've seen different people talk about your content, that are fans of yours, and they say that they love like almost kind of like that monotone approach that you take, a little bit of a sophisticated type of approach with it. But I'm still curious about where did the name The Right Opinion come from? There's like, is it more kind of like saying like your opinion is the right one? It's like that's like the definitive opinion about something?
It was an ironic joke. Basically there's not really too much else to say about that with regards to the story. I literally thought about it one day. I thought that has a ring to it. You got to go with these things. It's very hard to find a good name, and channel names aren't everything, but at the end of the day, it was a good catchy name. And you sometimes get some shade from people who are like, oh well, how can he call himself The Right Opinion? Opinions can't be right. But that's kind of the joke. Well, it is the joke. I accept that my opinions are completely subjective.
Sure.
But at the same time, I try to deliver my opinions in what I believe to be the most honest and presentable fashion, and that is important to me. Without a doubt, I'm huge on presentation, and that's why a lot of my videos do tend to be quite longer than many other people, because at the end of the day, it's me covering a lot of the bases and making sure I can explain my point of view as clearly as possible, because if you end up speaking too generally, you end up giving a quite vague take, you can typically come across as A, rather contradictory, and B, also a bit of offensive. If I was to generalize my arguments, it would sound very vague and very down the middle, but I'm not a down the middle person. I'm just a person who's very meticulous with their arguments and believes that there are various conditions that play into every single situation and a necessity.
Would you say it's very
to break.
nuanced? Would you say like it's very nuanced overall?
I would say the focus is always on nuance when I make my content, yeah.
That's true, because again, I usually see like you dive into a lot of detailed stuff, especially even if it's not like a huge topic, like you'll be able to at least like cover in specific stuff that not a lot of people don't really talk about. Even if it's not like a personality, if it's like a specific like general topic that everybody's talking about at the moment. But here's one thing I'd be remiss not to kind of ask about, because I'm pretty sure there's some people thinking about this too, especially now with the climate that we're in currently online, obviously in politics and stuff. Did you ever get worried about some people just, being a little bit of a jerk, or just taking things to a far extreme or a far reach and thinking that the name the right opinion would suggest something else? Like obviously with people that are so obsessed with politics now, I mean, do you feel like sometimes they would like try to put it out there, be like, oh, he's like the right opinion, like the right wing opinion, even though that sounds incredibly stupid?
I mean, I have had questions about it. I mean, typically the thing is that people will believe what they want to believe.
True.
In those instances, most people just ask me, and I say, no, it's not. I'm quite left wing, and I've definitely worked hard to convey some of those values in my videos. But there will be people who make that assumption. But at the end of the day, when you're a huge public figure, that is part of the game, and I can say what I say. I can say, no, it's not right wing at all. But I haven't had any situation specifically yet where someone has accused that of being some kind of sinister message, very insidious, slipped in there. I haven't had that yet. I might do though. I might do. I might do, but at the end of the day, I just have to express myself, and people judge that all they want.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the only reason why I ask, because I feel like, again, with the way things are now, especially with social media, I mean, because you're probably on social media a lot, probably just as much as I am, where people, for one reason or another could say or kind of interpret things the way they want to interpret them, especially when big things happen in the news. And I always wondered about that. I was like, well, when I first saw your channel, I always thought, like, I took it as like, oh, my opinion is the right opinion. My opinion is the definitive, like, correct opinion. That's what it spoke to me when I first saw your videos. But then knowing how other people can be sometimes, it'd be like, oh, okay, so like he's trying to talk about like, one side or the other of certain types of situations. So it's like, even though I find that to be stupid, I would not be surprised if like there's a couple people out there that would think something like that.
Yeah, of course. And there probably will be people who think like that when you have such a huge amount of people existing in the world. Of course, there are going to be some people who are going to say some unreasonable things, but at the end of the day, you just have to try and appeal to the people who can use, who can listen to your arguments. And most people are, I mean, a high majority of people will happily give you, will happily side with you, because at the end of the day, no one knows your name like you. And I don't have any ulterior motives to name my channel like that based on right-wing politics. So I think the fact that there isn't really much to gain from such a channel name should be argument enough that it's probably just maybe an ironic joke, which it is.
Yeah. Now, I want to know, what is really the appeal for you or for other people about commentary channels? Because obviously you do a lot of content that's like commenting or giving your thoughts about specific people or topics. But like I noticed that obviously on YouTube, there's other channels that do something similar, but obviously not in the same way that you approach it and stuff. But overall, the content is very similar. There's a lot of parallels there for people that love, you know, people commenting on certain things about like what's going on YouTube, about certain personalities on the rise, certain big topics and subjects that are like, you know, in the news and stuff. But like, what is the appeal of that? What's the appeal of like watching someone like you, watching someone like, you know, Tipster, or watching someone like Philip DeFranco give like certain commentary on things like that?
Well, I think a lot of people are very busy and don't really necessarily have that much time to create these incredibly developed, in-depth analyses of matters that are trivial to their lives. But at the same time, you know, there is content of value to be taken away and content of practical application with regards to being able to reason. So I think one of these things, particularly about content like mine and Philip DeFranco, is being able to, you know, deliver information in a somewhat interesting fashion, you know, that appeals to an audience and, you know, gives them something of value. I really try and give my audience something of value every video. I try and like have some kind of theme, overarching theme, some kind of end message. I really do. I pretty much try and insert an end message at the end of every video. But yeah, I just, when I create my content, it's really, I mean, it's not just an exercise for them. It's an exercise for me on my reasoning skills. And for someone who's at university currently and taking courses, you know, it's been a generally beneficial experience to be able to step back and make arguments and challenge myself to do more research and look into more. I think it's greatly interesting ride I've been on. I don't think I would. I didn't think I'd ever get over 100,000 subscribers, which is
that's pretty dope.
rather. I mean, it is a pretty great achievement. I mean, of course, there are many other people who've done it as well, but it's still surprising. And the fact that I've been able to do it, doing something that has really developed
you as a person.
Me as a person.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. And also, you know, given something to audiences that they can take away. You know, I've had people message me and they've said, you know, I really like your videos. Like, I have gained a great level of like insight and ration and knowledge on them. And someone said they even showed it to their classes on how to argue.
Pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's pretty great knowing that you have that level of cultural influence. I think that's a very you know, exciting, stimulating concept, and I'm not easily excited. I'm very seldom excited as a person, but that was a really good message, that one that I received. I was very pleased about that one. It was good to know that I was having an effect, a positive effect like that, and I was imparting my content in a way that someone took something like that away from it. I think that's great.
That's cool. That sounds really dope, especially, again, if you get that frequently with some of the bigger videos that you do. I can only imagine with some of the content that you've done, especially some of the more recent topics that I've seen you cover, obviously with Jake and Logan Paul, with Shane Dawson, and a few others. One thing that I'm always curious about that I see a lot with, you know, various different commentary channels or people that do commentary on stuff is that they walk a very fine line, I feel like, when it comes between being informative and giving something like food for thought to the viewer, and then also being considered or being kind of placed into this, like, you know, grouping of quote unquote drama channels. And I feel like it's a very fine line that you guys kind of have to walk across or walk around and stuff, because you guys are talking about sometimes controversial stuff. I mean, how do you feel like, you know, in your own way that you kind of avoid stuff like that? Like, as opposed to being looked at more as like someone informative, like a Philip DeFranco, as opposed to someone like a Keemstar. Because again, Keemstar being drama alert, you know, usually the one that has like all the scoops and dirt on stuff that's going on, as opposed to Philip DeFranco, who's like, oh, here's something that happened, but here's something for you to think about with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, someone like Keemstar, drama alert, he delivers information on a very immediate level.
Super fast.
And there are channels that do that. And they basically summarize what's going on for people who, you know, may not really know. Mainly for people who kind of are interested in the topics, but I guess want just the information. People just want to know what's happened. They can develop, you know, some sort of, you know, basic opinion. And for me, it's like, here are a collection of more specific observations, and here's how they may influence the situation. Here's my point of view. Here's how I feel about it.
As opposed to quick facts. Like, you give him more supplemental stuff besides the quick facts. Yeah. Quick facts are fine, but what I find is that often with investigation, there is more to a situation than meets the eye. And therefore, when I'm delivering my information, I try and do that. I try and say, but look at this, or look at this, and talk about how that may influence the outcome, or even the moral judgment of something like that. Interesting. Now, based off of that, do you feel like a lot of the stuff that usually goes on, whether it's on YouTube or social media and stuff, is usually like quick knee-jerk reactions to a lot of the info that's put out there, because you have the channels like the Keemstars and others that are out there that are just throwing the facts out without, again, like what you said, giving the supplemental or other things and other perspectives to think about, stuff like that? Do you feel like sometimes that adds more to the problems than it needs to be?
I mean, one of the things about modern media is that it is quite reactionary, and it's always trying to get you in with an exciting title, and, you know, people basically summarize, and you'll know the rundown, but the framing might be a bit vague, and therefore it might cause you to make some assumptions about the situation that may not necessarily be completely substantiated. And I think it's very hard to necessarily report on situations
that are
without
like
some sort of without some sort of, you know, reactionary spin. Like, you know, you have to interest people, but at the same time, like, that's why I feel my content, you know, does have its place, because you need someone to take a closer look rather than just say this person good, this person bad, and actually understand the reasoning behind the situation, and maybe even, you know, break them down a bit further and provide some sort of additional insight. That's how I see it, at least.
I could relate a little bit, because even though, again, I'm more primarily gaming with most of the content that I do, and I see that a lot with people when it comes to reviews of certain games. Like, obviously, you play video games, and a lot of other people that watch this probably do as well. And sometimes you see like a bunch of different reviews out there, and they'll comment or like praise a game, but like completely ignore certain aspects about it that might not necessarily be bad, but also important to people's buying decisions or important to people's opinions about what that game is and stuff. So I could definitely see a lot of parallels there. Do you feel like, though, the majority of people that end up getting into this type of stuff lean more towards on like the quick reactions or the quick type of like results because of that, and less more of the analytical and less more of like taking the time to flesh things out?
I mean, it's one of those things. People do want to be entertained, and I think that's okay. I think that's fine. People want to watch content for entertainment, then that's their choice. It's just, for me, I think it's also important that while acknowledging the entertainment completely has its place, it's also important to understand that those situations may be embellished or exaggerated for the sake of comedic delivery. And I've covered that before on some of my videos. I've covered the topic of often having comedy as distraction that may actually detract from the greater points. And I don't think that's an issue. I think you have to integrate that somehow. But at the same time, it's important not to necessarily derive your positions from content that may be set out as entertainment. And that if you want to look more into the situations, the information can be presented in a more digestible fashion than just very bland articles.
I agree.
I think it's a difficult situation. People need that entertainment, but at the same time, I would also say there are certain situations that require certain YouTubers to cover and provide their contribution, and that's where I feel like I come.
It gets very complicated online overall, especially when diving into topics and stuff like that. But we're going to deep dive. Yeah, we're going to deep dive more into that on EX mode. So, I mean, this is where this conversation is going to end for you guys here on YouTube that are listening to this. But don't worry, I'm going to chat more with the right opinion on EX mode over on my Patreon page. There's going to be links down below in the description box, so you guys can go directly to the link there. At the $1 level or higher, you guys are going to get this bonus EX mode podcast where we're going to talk a little bit more about YouTube, obviously about commentary and a whole bunch of other stuff. But TRO, you got any other thoughts you want to convey to the people that are listening out there, some of your fans or people that might not know you?
I don't really have too much else to say currently, but thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you're already putting so much out on YouTube of different stuff. So yeah, there's already a ton of stuff out there that you're talking about some stuff. But thank you for chatting up with me on this episode of Definitive Discussion Rebooted. We're gonna chat more in just a bit. But guys, thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure you leave me a comment down below in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about this whole discussion. Tell me also about suggestions of other guests you guys want to see on the podcast. If any other types of personalities, YouTubers, or whoever else you guys want to see come onto the show. Don't forget to leave a like on the video as well, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos just like this one. So from both of us, we will talk to you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.